The Secret Guest of Midnight. The story explores the conflict between motherhood, chastity, and femininity. Rhea Rathor, a deserted woman, lives in her in-laws' house. She has given up her desires, passions, love, and feminine instincts for the sake of chastity and motherhood. Despite everything, she constantly feels her husband's presence within her. Rhea awoke abruptly, her pulse quickening at the distinct sound of movement emanating from the kitchen. She lay on the unforgiving floor of a nearby room, a self-imposed exile from the comfort of the bed she once shared with her husband. The cold, unyielding surface mirrored the emotional barrenness that had overtaken her life. It had been 5 years since Pankaj, her husband, abandoned her and their family, a departure as sudden as it was inexplicable. No arguments had prefaced his leaving, no explanations had followed. Not even their newborn son, Sonu, nor his ailing father, Vikram Rathore, could tether Pankaj to his responsibilities. That stormy night, he vanished into the obscurity of the rain, leaving behind a void none could fill. From that moment, Rhea had renounced the shared sanctity of their room, instead choosing the austere discomfort of the floor. This act of self-denial became emblematic of her grief, as did her transformation into a vegetarian, her meals reduced to mere sustenance, stripped of indulgence. Over time, Sonu grew from a fragile infant into a lively 3-year-old, his innocent laughter occasionally piercing the heavy silence that cloaked their home. On certain nights, he would sleep in Vikram's room, bringing fleeting moments of solace to his grandfather. For the elderly patriarch, this bond was a reprieve from his own sorrow, though it could not erase the pain of his son's disappearance. Vikram Rathore, the venerable landlord of Laxmaipur village, presided over an estate of considerable grandeur. His sprawling mansion, surrounded by meticulously tended gardens and staffed by an array of servants, symbolized his wealth and stature. Yet for all its opulence, the estate could not insulate him from the anguish of an untraceable son. Years of exhaustive searches had yielded no answers, leaving him to sustain hope on sheer resolve. He often tried to console Rhea, assuring her that Pankaj would return one day. Yet his reassurances, though well-intentioned, seemed hollow against the depth of her despair. The sudden noise drew Rhea fully awake, her senses sharpened by a surge of unease. Mashima, she called to Rani, the elderly housemaid who had been a fixture of the household for decades. "Did you forget to lock the kitchen tonight?" "No, my dear," Rani replied, her voice tinged with worry. "I never forget such things. I locked it properly. I don't know how it could have opened." The two women hastened to the kitchen, their imaginations alternating between mundane explanations, a stray animal perhaps, and the unsettling possibility of a thief exploiting the storm's cover. The commotion soon attracted Ranu and Bola, the estate's gatekeepers, who joined the search. Lanterns in hand, the group meticulously inspected the kitchen, the storerooms, and the cattle sheds. The storm outside raged on, its relentless downpour and howling winds amplifying their unease. Despite their thorough investigation, they found nothing amiss. Reassured but still uneasy, the group dispersed and Ria returned to her room. Alone once more, her thoughts turned, as they so often did, to Pankaj. Memories of him washed over her, his easy charm, the warmth of his embrace, and the whispered stories that lulled her to sleep during their happier days. She remembered his playful gestures, his tender caresses, and the nights of unguarded passion that had once defined their bond. Sonu was a living testament to those moments, his presence both a source of joy and a poignant reminder of all she had lost. A deep sigh escaped her as she stretched out on her bed, her body instinctively seeking the comfort of a presence long absent. The vividness of her recollections stirred long-suppressed feelings, igniting a yearning that bordered on anguish. Overwhelmed, she fled to the bathroom, splashing cold water over her face and neck in a desperate attempt to quell the fire within. The icy rivulets clung to her night clothes, grounding her momentarily in the stark reality of her solitude. The sound of running water stirred Vikram from his restless slumber. Concerned, he called out, "Are you all right, Boomer? Are you feeling unwell?" Ria hesitated, her voice tinged with embarrassment as she replied, "It's nothing, Baba. I just woke suddenly and couldn't fall back asleep." Her response, though evasive, was enough for Vikram, whose silence conveyed an understanding deeper than words. The night resumed its stillness, broken only by the rhythmic patter of rain and the occasional hoot of an owl. Vikram's coughing shattered the fragile quiet once more, its raspy cadence echoing through the darkened halls. Concerned, Ria lit a candle and made her way to his room, the dim glow casting elongated shadows on the walls. She rummaged through a small wooden box, retrieving cloves and cardamom to ease his discomfort. "Chew these slowly, Baba. They'll help," she said softly, placing the spices into his trembling hand. His weary eyes met hers with gratitude as he nodded, gesturing for her to return to her room and rest. Ria obeyed, retreating silently as the candle's flame flickered in the draught. Back in her room, she lay down, the weight of her sorrow pressing heavily upon her chest. Outside, the rain continued its unrelenting descent, each drop echoing the storms that raged within her. The house, steeped in shadows and enveloped by silence, seemed to hold its breath, bearing witness to the enduring grief of its inhabitants and the unanswered questions that bound them to the past.